and an executive coach and founder of EPC Leadership, Executive Performance Coaching. I work with CEOs, founders, and leadership teams on the psychology of performance, essentially staying clear, steady, and effective under pressure, all while building execution that's sustainable. So today we're going to talk about a distinction that changes everything at the senior level. What's the difference between time management and energy conservation? Because most executives don't fail because they're lazy, obviously. They fail because they're depleted. They're in too many meetings, making too many decisions, context switching all day, and carrying the emotional weight of the system. So even if the calendar looks organized, their internal capacity isn't. So let's define this clearly, shall we? So time management is the practice of allocating hours. Energy conservation is the practice of protecting capacity, focus, judgment, emotional regulation, and recovery. Time is finite, but energy is what determines the quality of your time. So for those listening, I want to start with a prime question. So before you optimize your schedule, ask yourself, what is the highest value use of my energy, not just my time? Because executives aren't paid for activity, they're paid for judgment, prioritization, decision-making, messaging, and stabilizing systems under pressure. So if your energy is off, your decisions get noisy, your communication gets reactive, and your leadership presence weakens, no matter how efficient your calendar looks. So why does this matter to the people around you? This matters because people do better with clarity, purpose, and consistency. And your energy is contagious as a leader. When your energy is depleted, teams are going to experience inconsistent priorities, more urgency and less clarity, sharper tone, delayed decisions, over control, loops like we'll revisit this later. So energy conservation isn't selfish. It's technically leadership hygiene, and it protects the system, your system. So the big difference, time is external, energy is internal. So here's a clean distinction. Time management asks, how do I fit more into my week? Energy conservation asks, how do I protect the capacity that makes my leadership effective? Time management is a logistics strategy. Energy conservation is a performance strategy. And at executive levels, the performance constraint is rarely time. It's cognitive load and emotional load. So the executive energy drains nobody talks about, right? So executives lose energy in some predictable ways. So I mentioned earlier context switching. So going from board level strategy to HR conflicts, to budget reviews, to crisis response, back to back. Decision saturation. Even small decisions start to stack up and judgment quality can drop. Emotional labor, holding uncertainty, absorbing anxiety, staying composed, being the stabilizer. Political friction, navigating misalignment, hidden vetoes, and conversations that require precision. And of course, open loops, these unfinished decisions, the unclear owners, the vague timelines. Essentially, your brain stays on all night. Time management tools don't solve these issues. Energy strategy does. So, the three kinds of executive energy to talk about, and essentially what protects each. So the first one is cognitive energy, right? That's your clear thinking. That's protected by fewer context switches, no meeting focus blocks, decision filters, like what only I can decide, and pre-reads and decision memos, as an example. The second one is emotional energy. So that's regulation under pressure, and that's protected by boundaries around reactivity, fewer urgent interruptions, recovery rhythms, even if they're short ones, and not caring what others should own. And the third is social energy. So this is the influence and presence. And we're protecting that by choosing the right meetings, fewer performative updates, higher quality one-on-ones, and being present without being constantly available. This is why two executives with the same calendar can have totally different effectiveness. One is spent, one is stable. In a short clip that I had posted a while back talking about signal versus noise, that's an important filter when we talk about energy conservation. So a huge part of conserving energy is refusing to treat noise like a signal. So you're going to ask yourself, what truly changes direction? What requires my attention versus my awareness? And is this urgent or just loud? When executives don't filter the noise and signal, they become the organization's emotional janitor. They absorb everything, and that's not leadership. That's depletion. I also talk about the autonomy move, which is stop being the bottleneck, right? Energy conservation increases when decision rights are clearer amongst your folks. So here's what's decided and what's open for input. And here's where you have to fill the autonomy gap. And when you don't name this, people escalate things to you, obviously. And then you spend your week answering questions other leaders should resolve for you. And that drains energy quickly. And it actually trains dependence in your teams. So some practical shifts executives can make this week immediately for high impact changes. One, make one decision only meeting per week. No updates, only decisions, if that works for you. One protected thinking block, even if it's 60 to 90 minutes, even just one block a week. A 2-touch rule for emails. Handle, delegate, or delete. Don't reread. And of course, a daily shutdown ritual. Write tomorrow's top 3, what you have to work on. And a not my job list, which I think most folks whom I explain this to are a fan of. So what's a not my job list? So we're not carrying what you don't need to own. And then also a hard limit on context switching. So we want to group similar meetings together as much as we can. These small structural changes protect executive energy more than motivation tricks. So if you're trying to figure out what you need, ask yourself, is my problem time or is my problem load? Time problem, the calendar is genuinely overfilled. And if it's a load problem, too many decisions, too much content switching, and too much emotional carry is probably happening. Most of the executives I encounter have a load problem. They try to solve it with scheduling, but the solution is capacity protection. So again, we make the core distinction is that time management does make you efficient, but energy conservation is going to make you effective. Time management is going to help you do more, but energy conservation is going to help you do what matters better and for longer. Because leadership isn't measured by the packed calendar that you have weekly. It's measured by your decision quality, your strategic clarity, and the system you create around you. So 3 reflection questions. Where is my calendar draining energy through constant context switching? What decisions am I holding that someone else should own? And if I protect my energy by 20%, what would improve first? Would it be clarity, tone, or judgment? And so if this short resonates with you, especially for those CEOs and senior leaders, I go deeper on this in the context of my proprietary inner architecture, strategic alignment, and adaptive leadership, ultimately raising questions and considerations regarding how your internal capacity shapes decision-making, communication, and the culture around you. Thanks for watching.